Are we recording? Yes, all right. Okay, welcome everyone. Today we have Zachary Stewart from Stewart Ranching Services. Say hello, Zach.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Excited to be here. Excited to have you on. Michael and I, we met you, was it a month ago already?
Been a little bit more than a month now.
Yeah, over a month. And I'm just going to tell you, it was wonderful going out there and meeting you and your brother and Mario. Because most of the time when we go out on these sites, people, they just want to talk to Michael because it's just the industry. It's just the way it is. I don't get offended. You know, they usually think I'm just the little support person taking a photo or whatever, but no, like you made eye contact and it was just so wonderful. And you were just so knowledgeable. And just, I don't know. I just felt like we all hit it off from the very first part.
I mean, and I knew about you guys before we met. You know, I watched the podcast and some of the things you guys are doing. And the big thing behind us is I want to raise awareness with what we're able to do. And you guys are doing such a great job at showing off our work. Right
wow.
now.
Thank you. Yeah. Michael, he said, he even knows I'm from Michigan. I said, that's wonderful. You were just so informed and so easy to talk to. And we right away, we said, this is it. Like you're friendly. You are just filling us full of information about your company. Cause I'm going in blind. I don't know how much Michael knew before he started, but I didn't know what those machines were.
Well, and I didn't know that. You know, I knew that you guys know how to market and you're really good with people and you do a lot in the community. So we knew that. And I knew it'd be a different thing for you guys because you're taking on a client that really you guys knew absolutely nothing about. And we knew that. So it's up to me to give you guys the information that we're putting out there that's the right information. So it's a different process. You guys are learning as well as with the customers.
Right. And it really helps on a marketing perspective because there's a lot of people out there who don't know what you do or the differences between the companies. And you just write off. You're like, here's what makes us different. Here's what we're good at. Here's what we take pride in. And it was just, it was wonderful. And just marketing bullet points at every turn. It was
well,
good.
with us teaching you guys along the way, you're able to teach the customers along the way. And one thing I learned working in the body shop was if you give the customer the education and the knowledge of how you're going to do it and their options, they're going to make the right decision at the end of the day. But you have to give them the options and let them know, you know, this isn't the only option.
Right.
You know, we have several options when we come in to clear land, whether it's forestry mulching or traditional land clearing. Not one size fits all for every customer. So.
Right. I love that. Well, let's talk about how your company got started. So how did the Stewart Ranching Services come about? What happened?
So Stewart Ranch Services started, I was working for the family concrete company. My wife and her sisters and dad owned a very successful concrete company. And when we moved out to Bowie 2 years ago, my father-in-law told me, he said, you're not going to want to make that drive. And I said, no, it'll be okay. Well, he was right.
Dang it, he was right.
And I did it. And with concrete, it waits on no man. When you start and you start pouring that mud, that's it. There is no stopping. So I got to the point where sometimes, I mean, we were out on the job for 24, 36 hours. It just depends, you know. You stop when it's done. And it just wasn't working for how we really needed it to. So I said, well, I like the machines. I know a lot about the dirt, and I learned a ton with the concrete. Started over there at the bottom and then became superintendent. I was right underneath my father-in-law. We had about 45 guys. So I learned how to run the crews and all the vendors. I dealt with all the concrete. So it really taught me kind of how the business runs. And I like the woods. I really have always liked clearing. And we tried to get a lot here in Bridgeport. It was about 80 acres. And we made a handshake deal with the guy. And I went in and cleaned up a lot of the land. Well, a week before we closed, he wanted about 50 grand more. And we said, no, that ain't going to happen. You know,
Wow.
And it was really just the principle.
Right.
You handshake, that's it. So I had a lot of experience doing that and side work. So I said, well, and I went out and just bought the one machine and started it from there. And it grew pretty quick. And Jacob, my brother, my partner, he was wanting to change. He was working for Baker Hughes Oil and Gas, and he went straight there out of high school. Been there 11 years. So he was wanting to change, and I could use some help. So he decided he was going to move up. We're both originally from South Texas, grew up in a small town. I've been up in this area about 5 years now.
Okay.
So he wanted to move up
and go ahead and say that small town because
Magnolia, Texas.
That's where my grandma
Montgomery
lived.
County. It's not as small anymore. That's why I don't live there. But
it's not. And talk about trees. I mean, the woods there.
So
are
down there, we actually have what they call timber. There's big pines, there's big oak, but you also have a lot of pivot, brush, yopons where you're not walking through some of that stuff. It's just not happening. The woods down there is a completely different beast. And it's a lot of flat land. I didn't know what hills were until I came up here. I mean, Houston's like a swamp.
It is.
I mean, it's literally
so
built on a swamp.
Yeah, everything's about 10 feet above sea level, and that's it. It just kind of goes.
So we didn't, it's a lot different up here, just how everything is. And it was a big change.
Oh, yeah,
when
just so many types of vegetation. And like you said, the hills and the drainage and I knew right away, Michael and I, we drove up to that job site out in St. Joe or outside of St. Joe, and just the smell. Like, I love the smell of the woods.
Yeah.
Just walking out there and just, and I know that sounds so
Well, a
strange,
lot of that was we were cutting cedar, and that cedar has a very strong scent.
Oh, and just
South Texas, we don't have that.
I think the dirt has a distinct.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when you
we
start
are working that
turning it.
soil as well. But South Texas, I mean, it's completely different vegetation is what we have up here.
Yeah, and you had to learn all about the vegetation and the hills and the drainage. So if you take out too much, you're going to mess up the whole drainage system that's been there for hundreds of years.
Oh, and that's sometimes where we'll come in and promote the forestry mulching because we're not causing any soil disturbance, digging up the roots or removing the trees. Where we can come in and mulch it, and that mulch will act as an erosion barrier. It'll naturally decompose over time, and it'll let grass come in. That way it can't just wash out, because if we come in and just leave it bare dirt or rain, whatever, it's just going to continue to wash it out and make more of a problem.
Yeah. So in a brief summary, like, what is the mulching machine and what does it do?
So forestry mulching, it can be done in several different ways. The lowest form of forestry mulching would start with a skid steer, and even the skid steers, they're not all the same. There's different horsepowers, there's different hydraulic features. So the lowest size mulching unit you could put would be like a 75 horsepower low flow, which means it's not going to have as high of hydraulics. In the forestry mulching, you want the most hydraulics that you can get because it allows that forestry mulcher to go. So we don't run the forestry mulchers on the skid steers because they're not designed to do it. Can you do it? Absolutely. They're limited on the tree size, where we run what they call as a dedicated forestry mulching unit. It's purpose built. That's all it does. And it's got steel tracks. It has extra hydraulic pumps and almost double the PSI and the hydraulic flow.
Wow.
So what we do is it's about 86 inches, I believe, is our mulching head width. And it's on a big drum, and we have teeth on that drum, and it sits there and grinds those trees up, turning it into mulch. Right.
And one thing that makes you different, you have two different types of teeth. Right?
Yes. Well, we choose to run knives on our machines. So the knives, they'll actually cut. What they call carbides are more like a hammer. So we only run the carbides on the outside because the way our mulching head is designed is to work in the center. That's really where it cuts, and that's where it suctions everything through. The outsides, it just kind of wears and balances the head out. So if I had the knives on the outside, they're going to wear unevenly and throw that head out of balance. And if it gets out of balance, it's not going to spin at the right rotation. You're going to feel a lot of vibration. So we kind of do that for the balancing. And we could run carbides on our machine. They work really good for rock and other features like that. But with the machine that we run, it's steel track undercarriage, like a dozer.
Right.
Same thing like a dozer. So that rock is very hard on it.
And don't the knives help break the tree into smaller pieces?
Absolutely. So especially like on a
manageable?
big oak or a hardwood, something that's got a good sized diameter to it, we're actually able to come in there and shave that tree instead of where it's getting in there and bending and breaking before it's shaving it. When they came out and shot the video for us last week, I was actually able to show Cooper the difference. And when we did a really big tree, it looks almost like someone took a, sawdust and put it out there.
Wow.
Not every tree is going to mulch up the same way. A lot of your brush and, stuff like that, it's going to bend before it actually chips up. So it can be in different pieces. And we try to explain, set the expectations of what the final product will be.
Right, right. Michael, had you ever seen one of those machines work before that day? So, we're walking through the woods and I thought, oh, cool, machinery. That forestry mulching machine just eats trees. That's the easy way to say it.
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like it because most people, they put things in piles and then they burn them. But that's something that you are adamant that you don't like doing, or if possible, you avoid it. Correct.
So, and there's been methods that have been around for many years, and they work. And I learned a lot of what I learned from old timers. I learned a lot of what I know from my grandpa, and not just from what I do, but just in life in general. But you guys know all very well. With time, stuff changes. There's better methods out there. With the burn piles, if they're done right, and that's the method that people want to go, that's decides on them. But how a lot of people do it is they bring dozers out and they push these trees over, and it's not possible. I don't care how great of an operator you are, you can't push that tree and get it into a pile without getting a bunch of dirt in there. So when you go to burn the pile, now you have 3 or 4 foot of dirt. And stuff in the dirt. So it's never truly going to burn. And I was able to connect with Cooper right before we shot the video on that last burn pile. Yeah. He experienced that when he did his place. He said, man, I went to do the fire and it just kept going and going and going. And it wasn't quite what he thought it was going to be when he had the house cleared.
Yes.
So,
yes. And I don't know if anyone's noticed lately, the wind has blown a little bit. Fires in this area.
I mean, today's
would be
terrible.
The worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Today and yesterday, we're all kind of, Michael's voice is a little,
well, I follow the Forestry Service very close because they put a lot of recommendations out. And this weekend, there's a big hazard for fire due to the wind, and everything's so dry right now.
Right. So the people who have done piles, you can see it all over the counties. They have huge piles they haven't been able to burn.
Some have been out there and they'll stay there for forever.
Right.
Some people, they have the home builder come in and they say, okay, well, we'll either haul the pile off or we'll burn it. And the expectations aren't quite set right. The one that we did last week, it was sitting out there for about 6 months and he just got tired of looking at it.
Oh, my goodness.
And we were able to come in. They wanted it done. That was after we already did some work previously for them. We were able to come in and get it down. I think it took us 6 hours, and you guys were shooting the video, so we were involved in that as well.
I know. I would look at a pile and think that's going to take days and $15,000 to take care of, or just it looks like such a big task. But people need to know if they're tired of those piles, they can call you and you can take it out in a day.
And some piles, depending on how big the timber is in there, if there is dirt or we're sure there's not trash, we don't need the excavator to come out there and spread it out. But where they're big piles and there's dirt, it's very important we bring the excavator and we'll actually spread it out so we can make sure we can get it into finer pieces and get everything. Because if we're not going to get it all, there's no point in doing it. No. We're going to make sure we get it all.
Yes, yes. And I love how you are adamant about walking the property with the owner before you start.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if possible, you want to keep as many healthy trees. You want to make the land as healthy as you can using your equipment without depleting it versus what they want. But you're not about to just go clear a field.
Well, our big thing is I like to set the expectations up front, and we're going to include the customer in the process. Because, yes, we do this every day, and we're very knowledgeable, but it's their land, and it just because this is what I recommend, that tree may mean something to them, or for some reason they want it there, and once I take it out, I can't put it back.
Right.
So it takes 2 seconds to ask and say, hey, are you sure you don't want that out? Before we get out of here. It's always better when we first start on a project, we go after any dead trees, real small trees that just aren't going to make any, kind of growth, all the brush, and then clustered trees, because the trees do need space to, get the proper sunlight and grow on their own. So that's what a lot of people like about us is we don't come in and just clear cut it and we're out of there. Right. We're going to make sure if you want trees, we'll leave you with plenty of trees.
And with the job that we saw, her dad wanted 2 acres of flat land that he could plant his stuff. She wanted all the trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he wanted 2 acres, and you, in a nice way, said, "Let's do an acre."
Yeah.
With all of this, it would just be so much work, and it was nice to see you talk to her, and she knew, or her dad wanted a certain way, and for you to say, "Well, let's just do it this way." And
well, because at the end of the day, you know, as on a hobbyist part, you know, putting a garden in a 2-acre garden, that's a pretty good sized garden. I mean, you could feed the whole town
I
almost.
know. Even an acre, that's a lot.
And we do this every day, so it was up to me to say, hey, I don't think you quite realize what the 2 acres really is. You know, why don't we start here? And then if you decide you want to go more, we can always go more, but don't start big. And then you realize, well, I took out way too much, or I shouldn't have done that. You know, it's always, we try to take a conservative approach at it.
And I enjoyed listening to you talk about the different types of trees and how to take them out. So why would a mesquite tree be so much different than an oak tree?
So the mesquite trees and several of the other trees, they'll reproduce. They'll come back if you don't remove the taproot. We have had good results with mulching the mesquites and spraying them. With that being said, we don't guarantee it because I don't spray it. You know, you really need an applicator's license or do it yourself. That's not a guaranteed thing with that. Removing it at the taproots always isn't a guaranteed thing either. We've seen where people will grub them and then they pile them and you have regrowth coming back up in it. The thing with mesquite, if you have mesquite on your property, you will be dealing with it for the rest of
There's
the
no
time
getting rid of it.
There isn't. I mean, we can minimize it, and it's a property management thing. And that's really what the forestry mulching is. I can get it down to a manageable state where you can come in there and maintain it. But with any land, any method I use, if you don't maintain it, it's going to come back.
Right.
You know.
Right. In your video, you talked about you providing or creating a space in somebody's yard they didn't even know they could use.
That was on the brush pile.
Yeah, there's so many woods. I'm like, I'm not walking in there.
I went and met with the gentleman, and it was in Silver Lakes, which is pretty close to where we're out of. And he was showing me some things that he wanted, and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, do you have anything else that you're going to need done? Because with our equipment, we do need some stuff in front of us. Now, he did have some big trees where if you don't have the type of equipment we have, it doesn't matter. You can't do it. So I asked him, I said, the way the stakes were running, it looked like just a corner piece of that property. And he said, no, it goes all the way over there. I said, okay, well, then it makes more sense because I always want the customer to get their money's worth because it takes X amount of dollars for us to stay in business and show up. So if I'm going to do it, it has to make sense for them as well as us. So once he showed me that and we talked more about his land, he had plenty of stuff to do there. And that area was kind of in a floodplain. So most people would question about even cleaning it up. But they were very happy with us uncovering it because it makes the land look so much bigger.
Oh, Capri and I saw it. I had seen it before you had done it, not even knowing that was your job. And it just looks so beautiful. Because before you couldn't even really see their house through all of it. It just looked like a big mess. And now it just looks like these beautiful trimmed trees. You can see right through them in their house. And it just made such a huge difference. And now they can use it. They can put swings out there.
Absolutely. And with the forestry mulching and the land clearing, it all really depends on how far does the customer want to take it. Because there's a difference between forestry mulching and land reclamation. With the forestry mulching, I can send Jacob and the machine out there, and whatever they can get, him inside the machine doing, that's what you're going to get. If you want to take the next step, we can come in with Mario and bring hand tools and work where we're going to trim the trees, pull any vines that the machine can't get. And it's going to be a finished product because if we just come with the forestry mulcher, there's still going to be a lot of work left to do. Oh,
yeah. That's a big machine.
It all depends. Everybody has a different budget, a different need for what they're, if you're just wanting it for hunting land, you don't need all that,
Right.
Yeah, it all depends on the needs of the customer.
And that other client that we went to go see, they have some pretty expensive cows going in.
Yes.
So they want the trees for shade, but they want it all cleared around the trees or what?
We'll be back there this week.
Oh, yeah.
When the tornado came through, highline winds came through there and damaged quite a few trees. So
man.
We were done, but now we're not because we've got to go fix everything that the tornado kind of tore up. And
right. And for that provider or that client, they just want safety for their cattle, right? Like they want
well,
the
and
land
just kind of
clear.
open up. We were improving some grazing land, as well as, like you said, offering the shade. He had a lot of areas that the cows wouldn't have even thought about going into. But now that at least they can get in there, get some shade, some grass will start to work up in those areas and kind of help him with a mow pattern, a bale pattern if they need to kind of do some of that stuff.
Okay. And at what point, if it's too rocky? So I was down in the hill country right after that, and just huge rocks underneath the soil everywhere. And I was thinking, there's no way that the machine could do this.
So
right?
with the mulcher, we don't. There are machines out there that can do it. You know, the big rubber tire machines that can do it. Just the one that we run. So I'll come in with the excavator, and we got about 20 foot of reach. So even if it's on a hillside, working a creek, something like that, we can reach out that far and dig the trees out. And we've done a lot of that stuff up off 730, cleaning the creek banks, stuff like that, where they want to be able to see through their property, and it looks so much better once you uncover that creek.
It does. Or that property out by the lake, you started digging and you didn't know what you were going to find. Well, it was just years and years of things that people had just piled there.
And
well, decades, not years, decades.
Wise in Montague County is, kind of known for sometimes people get done with something, they just throw it out. So we never know what we're going to get into. We've worked on some really old farm and ranches where guys used to pull stuff up under the tree for shade to work on it. And then it just quit working, so they left it there.
Right.
Well, then the brush and everything, overtook it. Well, when we're going in there with that machine, you may or may not see it.
Right.
I did a job up in Montague one time, and it had brush about 7 foot tall. And I was going in there, and I see this propane bottle. I'm like, what the heck? So I'm looking at it, and next thing I know, there's thousands of bees coming out of this propane bottle. I mean, bees and me, that's a no-no. They tear me up too.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Because I'm inside this machine, and I need this thing out of my way. So I was able to kind of push it, and I had to turn my mulching head off because I didn't want to hit it. I didn't know if there was anything in it. You never know.
No.
So I pushed it out, and luckily those bees just kind of went off on their own.
Good.
But we never know what we're going to get into.
Okay, so you're in the woods all the time, and you don't do well with bees. You're allergic to poison ivy. Yeah. You're allergic to cedar.
Yeah, I picked a great thing to do for
You're kind of fair, so sun isn't really your friend either.
Yeah. Yeah, we get torn up pretty good, but I guess you really got to love it to do it because it'll definitely tear you up.
And you said every year you get poison ivy?
Oh, every year.
Every year?
Every year. Yeah. Most of the time, if I go 3 months without getting it, we're doing real good.
Oh, goodness.
I've tried to stay away from helping the guys pull the vines or trimming the trees, because I'm real big if, hey, they just need a little bit of help, I'll get in there. But I'm trying to tell myself now, like, it's not worth it. Don't do it. They've got it under control. Just stay in the machine, go do something else, not that.
Right. But there's always something you don't wash or, the poison ivy oil,
Well,
just
I've got
on
it,
things.
like, just to kind of give you an idea how bad the poison ivy is with me, our dog got into it one time, and they came and got it on the bed or whatever, and I got it.
Oh,
and most people, that wouldn't happen, but that's, me. That's how that goes.
That happened with my cat one time. She was playing outside and rolled in it, and then she came and she cuddled all on my neck, and I just had... It was awful.
Well, same thing with the cedars. That for some reason, and it's not all times of the year, but sometimes if they touch me, I'll break out in a rash.
Yeah,
and when it first started happening, and Jacob got up here, you got sensitive skin, this and that. And okay, he thought it was funny until it happened to him, and now he's like, I probably should stay away from the cedar. It's not so funny
And now
anymore.
You said Mario,
Mario, he's
no
really
one laughs
ready
at
to,
you anymore.
They're really like, okay, if we can not do that, that'd be awesome, but it's just part of it.
Yeah. What's the biggest snake that y'all have come across, or the scariest snake story?
A lot of them end up in that mulcher, so they're in pieces by the time we get done with them. Because that's a pretty asked question: is have you killed any snakes? And it's real hit or miss. There may be some, but we're so focused on getting the trees down. Yeah, we don't even.
It seems like that's so. By the time you start, most of them will go.
Well, okay, I take that back. I was in Silver Lakes and working a job, and I was pretty much already kind of done, just walking around, taking some pictures and stuff. And there was one from like me to you, like really close. And I was like, oh, I needed to kind of get over there. So I figured, oh, well, that sucker started coming right at me. And it was, I believe it was a copperhead. I don't really remember it now.
Right.
But I wasn't ready for it. I promise you that. I really wasn't. I moved pretty quick, though.
Oh, I bet
But
so.
that's the only close call I've really had. The rest of them, they end up in the mulcher.
And so no wildlife stories that y'all found or?
No. I mean, we've been on ranches where, oh, for sure, there's nothing, you guys won't hit anything. And then next thing you know, we suck up a 4-inch poly line, an oil pipe.
Oh,
and
no.
what it is the oil field had abandoned that pipe. It's a dead line. So lands got sold 5-6 times or whatever, so nobody's going to do anything about it. And the owner, rightfully so, didn't know. How are they supposed to know when there's this much brush in there? And luckily, me and Jacob were out on the job together running 2 machines, and had to take a chain and wrap it and back up and just keep pulling it out. It took us about 45 minutes to get it out, but steel pipe, we've got into that. I mean, you name it, we've probably hit it. I've spit a tire plumb out the mulcher before. You never know what you're going to get into.
You don't.
And stuff like that, I mean, it really takes a toll on the equipment. So if there's a lot of trash, we will kind of stop and say, hey, you understand if I take this through there, say it's paper or just trash. Well, yeah, I can mulch it up. That's fine. But now you're going to have 1,000 million pieces everywhere.
Right.
I'm not going to pick it up, and I know nobody else is going to want to. So we can set some time aside and come up with the game plan to get that stuff cleaned up before we take the machine in there and make more of a problem.
Right, right. And you, you've named it Stewart Ranching Services because you have your own ranch. And I like how you explained.
You say ranch, yes and no.
You have 2 or 3 cattle?
Well, we have some cows, but for as long as I can remember, my grandpa always taught me, if you have land, you can make money on the land. And he had many friends who buy land just for the timber. Here in North Texas, we don't have timber really. There's firewood. That's really what it comes down to. But up north, more up north and down south, there really is logging. If you ask people around here what logging is, that we don't know anything about logging.
No.
That's just not. There's no logging companies around here. He knew a lot of people that would harvest all the timber, sell it to the logging companies, and then turn around and they sell the land. So he always kind of told me those stories. So there at the ranch, we dig a lot of dirt for pads and stuff like that. And then if we do a land clearing job, it's within, 30, 45 minutes, and there is good firewood or something, and it just doesn't make sense mulching it. Say it's rocky conditions. We'll haul it all back to the ranch and save all the good wood, and then any of the brush, we go ahead and separate it and just get rid of all that.
Yeah.
So without the land, it wouldn't be possible. We typically have 5 machines there. I just love how you use that space. Well, we're going to use this, and then we're going to take this, and we're going to use this and separate it. Yeah, my wife's just kind of had to get used to it a little bit because there's trailers out where we live, I don't live close to anyone. I've got one neighbor across the street, and it works perfect for us. So
yeah, I just love how you utilize the land and make the best of what people have. And so many people are buying land out here that they don't know anything about North Texas. It's just so nice that they can ask you to go out there and you say, this is a good tree. This is not a good tree. This is going to bother you. This is not going to bother you.
I'd rather somebody call me before they buy the land almost because there's times where if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And just because somebody tells you can build on this, well, I guess you can build on anything. It depends on how much money do you have to spend on getting it build ready. If there's 50 foot of elevation drop and you've only got 25 foot that's level, you're going to end up spending a lot of money on getting it to where you can even put a pad in there. And if you don't know and you don't do this for a living, there's no way.
No, that is a really good idea. We're going to start marketing that.
And same thing with real estate, if you're not sure and you just want to get the property cleaned up before you get ready to sell it, we can do that. Developers, a lot of times they want to know what's it going to take to get this cleaned up for me to get ready.
Right.
Well, if you don't know that and you can't use that as a negotiation factor in your negotiation, could go either way.
Yeah,
it could be $100,000, could be 20. If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, we lived at Runaway Bay while we were doing our renovation, and somebody had an empty lot that had a bunch of brush, and they sprayed it with poison and Roundup. and just killed absolutely everything,
Yeah.
which made me so upset. Like all the flowers, cactuses. Of course, that was not good on the animals. It was uphill from our house, just
Right.
running down. I just couldn't imagine
Well, and
how
that's
many
the thing,
gallons of poison. I was like,
there's a saying that a good friend of mine taught me. He says, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, go ahead and hire an amateur. And then you'll be calling the professional. Now you're paying to get the job done twice.
Right.
So it's all about just, educating yourself and making sure the customer is asking the right questions. What kind of equipment do they have? And that's a big thing that we kind of struggle with is the stuff that we do. People think, oh, well, it's just a skid steer. It's just this.
No.
It's completely different. And we're trying to bring the awareness to them on that as far as what the difference is. Because most people look at it and they say, well, it's a machine. And
you said so many people were calling you back. You would go and just use the forestry mulcher and leave all of the stuff by the trees. And the homeowner said, oh, we'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, 2 weeks later, hey, Zach, why don't you go ahead and get back out here? This is really hard.
Well, my favorite thing is when the customers already put some time into it and they've cut some trees and they realize how long it's going to take. And then at that point, they're ready. They're like, okay, let's do this. I know you have the equipment, they're ready to do it the right way. But they experience that a little bit. They know that it's hard work. So at the end of it, they kind of understand what we put into it. Because at the end of the day, it is a lot of work.
And y'all are so fast.
And
so quick.
With the machines, a lot of people see what we do on the job. They see Jacob in that machine or me in the machine, and we're just running the machines. That's not it, though. Taking care of those machines is just as much work as running them.
Oh my gosh.
Especially that forestry mulcher.
Yeah, because you have to sharpen the
Well, we
knives.
do that every day, twice a day, every 4 hours. And if we're in bigger timber or worse soil conditions, because sand, it's like sandpaper. It just sits there and doles those knives out as well. All soil conditions are going to affect them different. So we also have to clean that forestry mulcher for fire prevention. All them hydraulics and everything gets hot. Well, that machine takes on debris. We have to make sure we're cleaning it, number one, so we're not bringing other species over to the customer's land and dropping them, like mesquite. If I don't clean that machine and we have those seeds in our machine and it's going all over your land. Oh my
gosh.
Well, you didn't have a mesquite problem before, but you may now. And the mesquite thing with the birds, cattle, it can spread. Really, cattle can spread it really bad. And it just keeps getting worse. If you don't get on it, if you have a problem and it's pretty minimal, it's best to just go ahead and get on it before it gets worse. Because it gets to a point where it's very overwhelming.
Right. That stuff grows quick.
Oh, it does.
Really
very quick.
And so your dad also works with you, right?
So,
is he going to start driving?
Pretty soon.
Did you talk him into it?
There wasn't much talking him into it. So they've owned the same place for 31 years. And they're moving from South Texas. They're moving about 2 minutes away from me. It just kind of worked out perfect where they found a spot over there next to the lake. He's gonna start running with us.
Oh, good.
Probably next month.
And your daughter calls him Nano?
No, that's my wife's father.
Oh, your
and it's
father.
Nonu. Yeah, it's Nonu. Yeah.
Nonu. I love that. And that's Italian.
So they're Sicilian. Which I'll be honest with you, I didn't even really know what a Sicilian was until I met my wife.
You do now.
I do now. Yeah, absolutely. But in South Texas, no, that wasn't really a thing. Like I said, I grew up in a small town, and yeah, we didn't know what that was. And then I met her, and I found out pretty quick. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she is wonderful. We were lucky enough to meet her too, and your sweet little daughter. And now she has her own little mini excavator.
Yeah. So my wife's sister also she has several kids, and like I said, my father-in-law owns the concrete company, and my wife and the sisters are involved. So it'll kind of be a family thing. He said, well, I'll buy it to use it for this little job that I've got. No, he won't.
It's
He's really buying it for the grandkids.
Which is
but
so cute.
He definitely
we'll pop that
spoils
into
them.
the podcast.
He takes care of them.
So cute. And your grandpa. So what is your favorite grandpa story? Or tell us about...
Oh, I don't think there's one.
Oh, I know there's not one. There's probably a lot. But you said he taught you everything you know, right?
So I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. Always, his whole life, he's been into auctions, flea markets. He did a lot of buying, selling, and trading. I mean, that's his whole life. And when I was about 10 or 11 years old, we always moved stuff to the storage units because he had so much stuff. Or we'd be going to the flea market And he really is the one that taught me how to work, because he'd take, real chest drawers. I'm not talking about the ones you go get at IKEA, a real wood drawer. Those are heavy. And, he's over there telling me, oh, you got it. And at the time, he's probably 60 years old. So I'm thinking, yeah, I definitely got it. I'm not going to let him see that this thing is heavy as I'll get out. And we're going downstairs. So when you went with him, it was a hard day's worth of work.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it didn't stop, But we started selling cars together. He always would.
When you were a little kid.
About 10, 11 years old. The first car I ever sold with him was a GMC Sonoma. Had no keys, no title. It may have had a title. Blown head gasket. And he had it, and he said, well, if you could sell this one, that'd be a start. Well, I sold that one quick. And then the Pontiac Fiero, and then the campers. And he just had so much stuff.
He just put you out on the lot as a little kid.
Well, it wasn't a lot, so it worked great, because my grandpa, he was very old school. Very old school. So when he passed, he was 79. At that time, he was probably early 60s. He quit going to the school in the 8th grade to work for the family, because back then, if everybody needed to eat,
right.
That's just how he was. He was a worker, and so he always kind of did that on the side. Is he'd work construction jobs and do that, but the buying, selling, and trading was his deal to keep a little bit of money in his pocket. So he didn't do technology. And around that time, Craigslist started becoming a thing. So he could find the stuff at the auctions and stuff that you couldn't find it online, and then I'd just sell it. And it got to the point where I was around him enough. That's really how I learned to talk to people, because we would be driving down the road. If he wanted to buy it, it didn't have to be for sale. He was going to ask. And that's probably the best thing he ever taught me was, if you don't know, if you don't ask, you don't know. The answer is always going to be no if you don't ask.
I love
it's
that.
always going to be no. And I've seen him do a lot in life. Just keep going. He didn't have a choice and just made it work. So,
found a way to
well,
make it
and
work.
for him, like I said, he quit going to the school in the 8th grade. So until I think he was about 32, 33 years old, him, my wife, or my mom were reading the Bible, and my mom would read the Bible to him. That's how I learned how to read.
Wow.
So that's really what keeps me going. When he first started working, he made 30 cents a day, and he met my grandma. He made about $1.25 a day. I've had a lot of opportunities in my life, and he taught me, opportunities aren't always given. Most of the time they're earned. But I've had a lot of opportunities. If he was born in my age, it would be completely different for him. The times. So that's really, we're really thankful for the opportunities that we get with the customers and the work that we do, because he didn't have those opportunities.
Right. And I think that's a real gift he passed on to you, is the communication tool. Because not only are you good at explaining what you're doing, you're also good at listening. And it's just something that we picked up on right away. And it's another thing that makes you different from other companies.
Well, and he would, it didn't matter who you were, or what you were. He was a preacher. So he took you for how you were. And if you didn't like what he said, well, too bad about it. He just didn't care. If it hurt, he didn't sugarcoat anything. And he would, anywhere we go, you couldn't go out to eat with them. It would be it would be literally
Everyone
all day affair. If he didn't know him, he'd just start talking to him. So I had to, I was there anyways. So I just learned from that, hey, I've met so many people that way. A good friend of mine, Jake Carnes, he lives down the road from me. He ran a dump truck past my house, and I just kind of flagged him down. Jake's a lot older than I am, almost 3 times my age. We're really good friends. We do a lot of work together. If I would have never flagged him down, probably wouldn't know the guy.
Oh my gosh.
So, and that's how I get a lot of,
Yeah, but in your eyes, you're like, I don't know that person. I
don't care.
I need to go talk to that person.
Pretty much, and my wife, my poor wife, she has to deal with it too. It doesn't matter. I'll talk to anyone.
Walmart trips or wherever you go are not quick.
Well, anymore, I don't get out too much, I'm not a huge fan of the Walmart or the Brookshire.
No, but I bet when you go, it takes you a long time to get out.
Yeah, being from South Texas, we have HEB. Up here, they don't have HEB. It's
not yet.
That's the only bad thing about
We're getting
up here.
close. What's the closest one? 20 miles? We're so close.
Hopefully.
But we need more people here. I know people say it's crowded, but we just don't have enough rooftops.
We're seeing a lot of growth in Sunset, Alvord, Nakona. St. Joe right now is really taking off.
Right. You're on the front end. You can actually see all this growth and all these builders just building.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to work on right now, is put something together for these builders, because you can't burn. And the haul off costs, I mean, it adds up quick. I mean, it ends up, that's one more equipment that's in it, one more guy that's involved in it. So that's what we're trying to put together a plan, is to help these builders get these lots cleaned up a lot faster and more efficiently to where they can go to work, right away, because everything's behind schedule.
Right. Oh, and so expensive. That's
Absolutely.
what we're trying to find creative ways to put pictures of the piles in the fields. And I wanted to put a big X, like but Capri, she just started off, we don't do this.
Well, and I got a lot of compliments on that post, and we have gotten a lot of compliments on the Facebook posts, because they've seen how it's different. I'm a lot like my grandpa, where it's pretty black and white. I don't. You guys do this, and exactly how to do it.
We're putting your cute little girl in there.
Yeah. So I mean, that post yesterday that she put, I mean, there was almost 40 likes and that,
I know.
So it's pretty exciting watching everything, how it's taking place right now.
And I love how you were just all in. You just said, I want to do a video. I want to do a podcast. Yeah. I want to do all of it.
Oh, you guys will know. You'll start to see. That's how I am. Wonderful. I'm either all in or all out. There is no halfway in between. It's all in. And that's really how all of us Stewarts are. My dad's the same way. If we don't know something, we're going to figure it out. And if I don't know, I'll be honest and say, hey, I don't know, but I know someone who does, or I'll figure it out. I'm not going to just sit there and ramble and tell you something when it ain't right.
Right. And hopefully these ads and the marketing will help more people, funnel them in your direction. Because all we got to do is get them in your direction.
Absolutely.
And you and your brother, your whole family, absolutely. We know that you'll take care of them.
What we're trying to, stop is people, like I said, they see the big machine and they think, well, I don't need that. I only have an acre. Next week, I'm going to go into Silver Lakes. It's 1.5 acres. We're actually taking 2 machines out there, the excavator and the mulcher. Most people would say, well, it's only 1.5 acres. Well, he needs stuff grubbed and he needs to mulch. And he was a little bit on the fence, because no matter how you cut it, property management is not cheap. No. It all requires money, and he was on the fence and wasn't sure. And I explained to him the process, and how if we just brought the mulcher, we're not going to be able to do the grubbing. And if I just brought the excavator, then he's going to be left with all the mess. And I said, here's what we can do, though. I can come out here. We'll do it in one day, and you'll never need my land clearing or land management services ever again.
Wow.
Or we can do it this way, and you're going to end up spending more money in the long run. But once he understood that, it's a no-brainer, But he doesn't do this every day. You have to take a step back and make sure to look at it from their perspective. Because I don't do marketing every day. There's some times where you guys have to, explain maybe why we're going to do this or that. And it just makes a huge difference when you slow down and explain just a little bit of what you're going to do.
Yes. And when we first met, you said, I'm not going to lie, this market, it's saturated.
Oh, it is.
But I want to use marketing to show why we're different. And
absolutely.
We're not just some random guy on the street that bought a machine and that we don't know how to use it.
Well, and it is, Wise County, Montague, even Weatherford, Springtown, it's very saturated. It's not that hard to go out and sign your name on the line for a skid steer. Now, go try to do that on some of the machines we have, and you're gonna run into a problem if you're not set up properly. So some people, they don't understand the process or whatever, and they hear, well, X amount of dollars an hour. We don't do jobs by the hour. It's not fair to the customer, I feel like, and it's not. If I wanted to work by the hour, I'd just go get a job.
No, and there's so many things that go wrong. Like if a hose or hydraulics or whatever, you don't want to charge the customer for time that you're
absolutely,
fixing your machine.
Yeah,
and so I love how that's not their problem.
So, and the same thing if I get my mulcher wrapped up in something that they couldn't foresee or I couldn't foresee, well, then we're going to kind of have to talk about that, because now my equipment's damaged or whatever that may be.
Yeah, and your team and your equipment, they're so good. They can take care of it so quick.
Absolutely.
So,
and one thing we're trying to, bring to light is it's not always that initial investment. You have to think about the long haul, especially if you have a massive amount of land. And I say a massive amount of land, could be even 20 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres. Well, a skid steer may go out there for 3 days and it's still not done. Or still not the way you want it, where we can come out in a lot less time frame and do stuff that they can't do. And that's what people sometimes look at is, well, this machine's going to cost me X amount of dollars. It's purpose built. And it can do anything that we need it to do. Where you can't with the skid steer in Texas here. The hydraulics get very hot in the summer on those skid steers. And there's times where you just got to stop. You can't work anymore that day.
No.
Because it's hot and the machine doesn't have the capacity to keep that fluid running through there and cooling it. It doesn't have the cooling capacity.
No,
our machine,
it's
that's not going to
105.
happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen
Wow.
because it's purpose built. You know, it all comes down to what we've really found. The big machines aren't always the ticket, but most of the time, the bigger machine, the more efficient it's going to be. But if we're working in a small lot and we need to keep trees and stuff, a big machine's not going to be the ticket, you know.
And all the research that you put in to buy the forestry mulching machine, I mean, it just goes to show that you didn't, we don't just need or want the latest and greatest. You want the best.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't do this for the money. I mean, yeah, obviously it takes money to keep this going, but we do this because it's very rewarding. You know, being able to take something that somebody hadn't touched in 30 years and we're able to turn it out. You want to go camping there tomorrow? Go camping. You want to start working on whatever? You know, we can do that.
Yeah, you want to build on the lake and actually see the lake?
Yeah, absolutely.
And still keep your trees?
You can see it, you know, when we get done with it and say, wow. And the customer, every time, I didn't know that my property was going to look like this. And sometimes, I'll be honest, we don't know either.
Right.
Because until I start doing it, and that's what I always tell them, you'll know once it's all starts going into play because it happens quickly. We know what to target, but we're going to include them in the process to make sure it's going to be how they want it.
And that's why you have a lot of repeat customers.
Oh, absolutely.
Or clients.
We don't have unhappy customers because I'm going to include you in the process. There's no way you can be unhappy in the end because we're going to do it exactly. And when I say we're going to do it exactly the way they want it, if they want something that's just not a good idea or not safe or something, no, we can't do it. But when it comes down, if it's doable and that's what you want, then okay. You know, if it's the right way to do it, you know, if it's the wrong way, I'm still not going to do it. You know, there's no problem with that. We either do it the right way or I just
That's
won't do it.
correct.
And sometimes we've had to walk away from stuff where the circumstances with the job maybe won't allow it to do it the right way. I'm not going to be the guy for that.
Right.
That's not who we are.
Nope. You're just going to do it right. Do it right. How can people get in touch with you, or what's the best way if they want either a bid or?
Our Facebook's very popular. You know, that's probably where most of our stuff goes through is Facebook. So they can reach out to us there on Facebook, either message us. Our website has a direct link. If they fill it out and put all their information, it'll send a message right to my phone with all their stuff. And if it's, you know, within reasonable hours, typically I'm right on it.
Yeah,
you know?
and I love your website. It loads so quick. It's easy to read, easy to see, and you did a really good job.
I can't take the credit for that. Ryan Deemer, he helps us with some of the business development stuff and the SEO stuff on that. They've been great. They've been with us since the start, and they kind of do marketing, but way different than what you guys do. It's on a completely different side, and that's why we said, well, if we kind of have both, it's going to work really
it's
great.
it's so great to bounce off of it because it's easy to find, easy to load. Just a good generic, like, here's what we do, here's our family, and that's it. Like nothing.
Well, and our
fancy.
services are pretty base. I mean, we do forestry mulching, land reclamation, land clearing, demolition, and we have the equipment to do driveways and some of that stuff. Now it does have to be, you know, I can't do a 50-foot driveway because of the scale of stuff that we do. Now we'll do up from, you know, if you've got half an acre up to 1,000 plus, we can handle it.
Okay, and you do demolition of all size houses.
All size houses. Any kind of structure.
Doesn't matter if it's 3-story.
Doesn't matter.
You're gonna take it down.
And that's the great thing about Stewart Ranch Services and us having that other family company is I do have access to plenty of other machines. My father-in-law's got so much machinery that, I mean, his 250G big excavator's been at my house all last week, and I dug the rest of the tank. You know, it kind of works where I help him with some stuff that he may need, and he helps me the best that he can with whatever I need. So it really works great that we have two family companies. You know, we try to work together where we can.
Yeah. Well, it shows. It's been a short little stretch, but we've really enjoyed it so far.
Oh, I've enjoyed it a lot.
And we have some big bids coming out there, so hopefully we'll get you some really big jobs, and you'll have 8 forestry mulching machines by.
Well, I mean,
year.
we do. I said I have had 45 men underneath me before. You know, where I couldn't look back from that day. You know, most people can look back in their call log, you know, a couple weeks or whatever. I couldn't look back from 12 o'clock that same day.
Wow.
most of the time because it was that, I mean, we were doing that much work and I had that many guys underneath me. I'm good, keeping it us. I do like running the machines. And that's the awesome thing is I'm able to run the machines, do the bids, deal with the customer where it's a very personal experience. And there is no pointing the finger saying, well, your guy didn't do this, or I'm the one that's doing it. We're going to make the agreement and it's going to be exactly how I told you it was going to be. And if something doesn't go as planned, we're going to make it right.
Right.
So that's a big difference in what we do is I'm able to be involved a lot, as well as Jacob. If I'm not out there on the job with Jacob, he owns this company too. So he treats everything the same way as I do.
Right. Right.
So it's really been awesome, our journey so far.
Yeah. We love marketing it and look forward to seeing what it's going to be like in 6 months.
Absolutely.
The growth is here. And I mean, you are at the right place at the right time.
Well, and that's the thing, sometimes I have to slow down and look back. I mean, I started this, I didn't think this is where I'd be today. Absolutely. And that wasn't my plan. My plan was, hey, let me slow down a little bit. I could take care of myself, one machine, and then it all changed so quick. And we started with one machine. Now we have 3, and it just keeps going and going. And we're about to put some, not equipment, but some attachments that we have that I picked up recently that nobody in North Texas has.
Oh,
and it's going to kind of change the way some of it will be used. We picked up a mower attachment for our excavator where we can come in and work ponds, creek banks. I'm really going to try to push it for a lot of those vines and give Mario a little bit of a break on some of that stuff because it is very hard to come in and pull those vines by hand.
Oh my gosh.
It's doable, but it's not a fast process. It's not. So I can come in with that excavator and at least drop it and we can chew it all up and just about make it disappear. And we'll still have to do the handwork and there has to be enough of it there for justify that machine, but that's going to be a really awesome tool that we'll be putting into the field pretty soon.
Well, yeah, I bet he'll be excited. Well, we all will. We'll all be excited about that. Okay. Well, anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover?
No, I can't.
Yeah, just great company, great people with a great service, and we'll keep looking on out for ways to help. We see piles everywhere.
Yeah.
So now you said, who is that builder? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is we're just raising the awareness because I ask almost every customer, before you met us, did you know about this? Well, no. Some people don't even know what forestry mulching is.
Yes.
They really don't. And that's not uncommon because it's not a new thing. It's been going on since the 80s. But it hasn't been a real big method. It's number one, it's very expensive to get into it. It's very expensive to maintain the equipment, keep it running. And it's not always a one size fits all. Sometimes you do need to come in and traditionally lay and clear it. And that's why we do that as well. But just once we get past the hump of what a dedicated forestry mulcher is, a lot of things are going to change.
Right.
And that's what I encourage the customers to do is, search for other companies, look and make sure you know exactly what you're getting. Ask, if you are looking at other companies, ask what kind of machines they have. Because if it's going to be more than about 8 to 10 inches, a skid steer is not going to be the option. And even if it is a bunch of 8 to 10 inches, trees, we're going to do it so much more efficient.
Right. You still have to go back in there and break it up so you can use the land, plant on it, use it safely for animals. If you have huge trunks, it's
just not going to work. And the forestry mulching, I mean, like I said, it's awesome. It really is.
Yeah.
What we can do with it.
And you get to be in the woods all the time.
That's good most of the time.
Most of the time?
Most of the time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in, Zach, to our studio.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
Next time, maybe we'll get the other family members in here, or your wife or your little girl.
Absolutely.
Talk. But if y'all need anything cleared, either for a house or for animals or a new property, for real estate, they can get in there and clean it up and make it look better and add value to the land.
And if you're just not sure, about what direction you want to head, give me a call. I'd love meeting new people. And, if that's the smallest thing that comes out of it is I got to meet someone new and share an experience with them, that's fine by me.
Yeah, we can verify that you like to talk.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You're good at it,
yeah, you better have some time because it won't be
good.
a quick thing. So
it is. I really, really like that. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Have a good day, and we will wrap this one up. Thanks, Michael.
All right.